Hello, friends. It's Lisa Williams, Chief Inspiration Officer here at Perfect Side Gigs. Welcome to our interview series, Corporate to Entrepreneur. We are sitting down with some of today's top experts across the nation, and they are sharing their stories with us and what joy and passion this leap has meant to them. So today we have, I think it's our youngest member so far. He's done amazing things in the short amount of time on this earth, Mr. Ravi Abuvala. Now, Ravi kind of was going down the traditional path that my son is currently going down, going to college, and was on his way to law school. In fact, had scored in the top 10% in the law school administration test. And suddenly his father got sick. And it started to create some, questions in his mind. He also started to talk to some attorneys that were in the business, and they were, just encouraging him to maybe consider something else. So he went on a journey of exploration and landed in the amazing world of digital marketing and has built, wow, just a tremendous business. And what I love about his business is now he's helping others build their business. So I think that's so exciting. Ravi, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. The first thing you said there, I literally have to remember that, Chief Inspiration Officer. That is a hell of a title. I really like that a lot. That was the first thing that stuck out when you said that. I was like, that is a very cool name.
So you want to hear another fun one? David Meltzer, his title is Chief CHO, Chief Happiness Officer.
I like that. I like that. We in my company I'm the CSO, Chief Scaling Officer.
That's what I love it. Well, yes. I love it. That's because scaling with systems is your business.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And thank you so much for having me on here. I think this is an awesome. What you're doing, all this together, is a very cool thing. I have a lot of friends in the kind of the corporate worlds following a job that they just did because it was laid out in front of them that they were supposed to do it. But I know just from speaking with them that they want something different. And I think it's so cool that you're creating almost a medium where people can hear from, as we'll get into my story, I'm sure, hear from people that have made that leap and the pros, the cons of it, and kind of what it looks like on the other side.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's a great segue to one question that I'm really curious about, because my oldest is 20 and he's in college, and I just wonder about these kids that maybe they don't see the corporate America path that their folks have taken as something that they can really own themselves. And, what would you say to those kids? Tell us a little bit about your leap and the joy that you've experienced as a result of it.
Yeah, I'd love to. So it's ironic, right? Because, we're not going to get into the whole education system. I do think it's a little broken. I'm not saying that I'm going to solve it or anybody else is going to solve it in my lifetime. But, I do think we are teaching things that, I created a multi-seven-figure business roughly from a $997 course that I bought that I consumed in 3 weeks, versus, 18, 16 years of school that most pay. Luckily I was on a ride, but most pay tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars for. So I do think it's a little bit of a skewed world out there. I do love online education. Things like this, it's just incredible that this is like even a possibility now. So everyone listening to this right now, listen to every single episode that Lisa puts out. Listen to any other YouTube you can. Consume information. I think there's a very important information gathering stage. But so the whole life was going to be a lawyer. That was the idea. That was the plan. I had just, and this might relate to a lot of people here, especially if you're already in the world. I had just seen like on TV what lawyers were portrayed like, and then like what my friend, I think there's just a stigma that if you're a lawyer, you're rich, right? And like there's a few stigmas around lawyers, but I'll keep it to the nice ones in case we're having lawyers listen. But like that you're rich if you're a lawyer. And I was like, well, I want to be rich, and so let me be a lawyer. And also it was like the safe thing to do, right? That was the idea behind it. And so, I worked for the governor of Florida for a year. I realized I didn't want to go into politics based on that. And then I was like, well, I'll just go into mergers and acquisitions, corporate law, all of this without ever doing an internship in law. Like just never, this is what I was going by what society says. And a lot of people do that as well. And also I didn't know what I want to do afterwards. So another common theme I see with people is they don't know what they're going to do next. So they sign on the dotted line for another 30 to 50 grand for undergraduate school, on English, right? The fact that I don't know, but anyway. And so I graduated college. I had a law school, essentially consultants, and I wanted to get into one of the top law schools in the nation. It's like, look, you got to take a year off and you got to devote all of your time to studying for law school admission tests. So that's what I did. And I graduated 3 days after I graduated in 2016. I get a call from my dad who lived in Atlanta, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And he was living by himself, and he had no one to take him to and from the cancer treatment. So as the only person in our family that really had the opportunity to, and I'm blessed that I had the opportunity, packed up all my bags, moved in with him. And then it was just probably the most transformative year of my entire life, was living with him, studying for law school, going to chemo and radiation 5 days a week, and then like talking to these chemo and radiation patients in this unit, right? And it's like, there's people my age. I just turned 26 2 days ago. There's people 35. There's people 65. There's people 85. And it's just like this, you get to ask people questions like, if you had to do it again, or, if you had to look back and you're looking at someone who's just starting his life, what would you recommend? And, one of the common themes I was seeing was that most people were putting on holds happiness, putting on hold their dreams, putting on hold this entrepreneurship thing, because first they wanted to get 5 to 10 years in the corporate world, test things out, quote unquote, be safe. And then they were going to go launch and do their own thing. And so one thing that I learned with my dad was just life is very, very fragile. And you hear it all the time, but it's not until you're literally talking to someone in the face that has a terminal disease that's probably not going to make it to the end of the year that you realize, oh, it actually is that fragile, and someone that close to home. And so after reading a great book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck as well, I realized I was kind of like, I was kind of following somebody else's dream, my parents' dream, and they wanted the best for me, for sure. And I remember, I came downstairs, I told my dad I wanted to drop out of the race to law school. He said, at the very bare minimum, take the law school admission test. I said, that's fair. I took the test. I scored in the top 10 percentile. He then took me to dinner, like I was telling you, Lisa, with a bunch of different attorneys and lawyers who were like the top in their field in Atlanta, Georgia. And we'd sit down at dinner and they'd be like, yeah, I don't think you should go to law school. And my dad would be like, he'd be frozen in his tracks, because the whole reason my dad took us out to dinner was to convince me to go. He's like, it's a different time. This isn't 1960 anymore. It's like, law schools, the cost of tuition, the saturation when you get out. And so finally, it was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. And everyone knows the saying about hindsight, but I didn't know what was going to happen. But in my mind, I had no girlfriend. I was living in my dad's house. I had no car payment. I didn't even really have a job. I was waiting tables in an Italian restaurant. I was like, what is the worst that could happen if I try to do my own thing right now, right? My law school test is good for 5 years. So I typed how to make money online. I found someone's online course. I bought into it. I had to move out of my dad's house. I moved on my brother's couch, and there was about 8 months of waiting tables in his restaurant, washing dishes at his restaurant at nighttime, and in the morning time. And when I got off, I'd be working on my online advertising agency. So, I had a different route than I'm sure a lot of the other people that you speak in here, because I didn't even really dip my toe in the corporate water. I was, lucky, not lucky, whatever it is. I think everyone, obviously, things happen for a reason. But I was like, you know what, before I go down that route, let me just do this one first. And if this one doesn't work out, I'll just go to something else. And I had a whole lot, although I say I didn't have a whole lot to lose, the funniest thing, Lisa, and this might resonate with some people listening to this, I did not tell anybody that I was in entrepreneurship until almost a year after I decided to be an entrepreneur, because I kept on saying to myself, okay, well, if I fail, I don't want anybody to know. And at the same reason, I was also saying, well, what if all of a sudden I'm like, all right, guys, I'm an entrepreneur, and everyone's like, you just told us for the past 18 years you're going to be a lawyer, and now you're going to be an entrepreneur. I was so worried about what other people thought. And Lisa, the craziest thing in the world is I teach other people how to do the same thing. The first thing I do is I say, when you decide what you're going to do, shout it from the freaking rooftops, because people want to help you. And the first people that are going to buy your products are the people who trust you the most. And that's your friends and family. And it wasn't literally until I posted 8 months after I launched my business, a testimonial of a client, and I had almost made no money. And then all of a sudden, out of the woodworks, my fraternity brothers, my mom, my dad, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I have people for you. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I did this 8 months earlier, right? So It's all in your head essentially. And I know that was a long answer to what you had just said, but that was pretty much the journey from like thinking about going down the lawyer route to essentially starting my own thing.
Oh my goodness, you've given me, I have like 3 directions I can go here.
No, I'm sorry. I realized I was like,
Okay,
oh my God.
so
This
I
really
know what direction I want to ask this because I want to make sure we get to this. So, and I'm not going to cry. I understand your journey with your dad because I did one with my mom and my best friend this year. And they both lost that battle in the last 12 months. So my question to you is, a lot of people face something like you and I went through. And they just go into hiding and they remain in fear. So what can you say to those people? Because you were brave. My mom looked at me like 2 weeks before she passed and she said, honey, I have no regrets. And so many people are not living their life, in my opinion. So tell me a little bit about that. Sorry, I get emotional every time I talk about my mom.
Don't apologize. Don't even apologize a little bit. And you know, for everyone listening, I'm blessed enough that my dad is a stage 4 lung cancer survivor. He's in remission right now. And yeah, it made our relationship stronger than it's ever been before. And I'm so sorry to hear, Lisa. It's nothing will remind you how precious life is like something like that. I mean, and for me and for other people listening to this right now, it was, and the scariest part about this whole thing was when I decided to do my own thing, it actually put a wedge between my dad and I. So it was even scarier because I'm like, you know, if anybody knows anything about cancer, you're never really fully cured, right? Like you're never really fully 100% out, right? There's always the chance that it comes back. And so in my mind, I'm like, you know, I'm putting this wedge between my dad and I, and it could be that I don't know when I'm going to talk to him again. And because I'm trying to start my own thing, but I know that if I start my own thing, I can take care of him, right? Because if I go to law school, it's 3 years until I'm able to make $1, and then I'm already going to be 200 grand in debt from going one of these law schools. So then I won't be able to take care of my parents for I don't know how long. I don't know how much time my dad has left. And so, although I love my dad, and he loves me more than anything in this world. But although he thought he knew what was best for me, I knew that that wasn't the best thing for me. And although I decided to go down that route against his best wishes, I knew that he would internally support me no matter what. And so like for people that are scared to make decisions right now because of you're going through something really similar, and it's crazy how many people have someone, you know, I guarantee has been affected, especially by cancer, right? And like it can be very terrifying, but there's one thing that I literally just tell myself over and over and over again in my head, and it's cheesy, but it's like, you know, when you're in the airline, they say put your mask on first before you help somebody else. And like, I'll give you an example. My dad I moved to Mexico about a year ago, and he's been living down there a pretty good life on, you know, Social Security and a few investments, and because his dollar goes further down there. Well, COVID-19 happened, and he had to come back to the United States because they were closing the borders, and he still has checkups with his cancer. And within a 2-day period, I had to buy him a flight from Mexico, then all of his stuff and all of his luggage from Mexico to Savannah, Georgia. And then I just bought him a 6-month lease for a place that he can stay in Savannah, Georgia for the next 6 months. And all his groceries, all of his utilities, everything I paid for right off, like as soon as he got there. I didn't want him to worry about anything. And I said on the phone yesterday, this happened yesterday. I was like, look, you know that if I was a lawyer, I'd be out of work right now. I wouldn't be able to take care of you, right? So, and it's happened a few times in my life. And so what you guys have to realize is that it's very hard to see that, especially because you don't know what's going to happen when you take this leap. But the people you care about the most and the people that might be the reason why you're not doing what you want to do and taking this leap, ironically enough, they're the reasons why you need to take the most control of your own destiny and create your own future, AKA, in my opinion, starting your own business, being in control of your own income, so that when the time comes, you're able to buy the house, fly them anywhere they need to go, take care of their medical bills, take care of any debts that they have. And I've been blessed enough that I've been able to do that myself.
Mm-hmm. You spoke a little bit about what I think is called approval addiction. Do you know Steve Siebold by chance?
I don't think so. No,
Oh
Steve.
my goodness. Read 177 mental toughness secrets of the world class.
I'm like writing so many. You have so many things to give me. I'm like writing them all down.
It is my business Bible. So Steve talks about um, approval addiction, and it's very real in our country. You talked about it a little yourself. You know, why do you think people care so much about what other people think? And I mean, how did it hold you back? Perhaps a little bit, you know? And how do you coach people about that?
Yeah, these are awesome questions, by the way, Lisa. I haven't gotten these in a while, so you're definitely getting another side out of me. It's so for me, I didn't identify it until I read an incredible book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I give that almost
I wrote that one down too.
Yeah. Okay. Good. You've not read it yet, Lisa?
I haven't.
Okay. I'm gonna buy it at the end of this. I'm gonna send it to you. Every interview I do, I mention it because it really was the book that pivoted my life. So I'm gonna send it to you after this. I do that for all interviews I'm on, and it legitimately it identifies. It's so the title identifies, right? You just in life, you really got to not give a fuck. And I'm sorry, Lisa, if I'm cursing on your show here, but it's like, life is a little bit like a game, and like people take it a little too seriously. And when you really write down the worst things that could possibly go wrong if you make this decision, like in reality, almost none of them are permanent. Almost none of them can't be fixed with either a little bit of money or a little bit of time. And so for me, it's so scary in the world that we live in. I think the two biggest issues that I see is number one, instant results, right? 7 steps, 90-minute abs, 30-second popcorn, whatever it is, right? It's like everything has to happen right now. And that skews people's mindset for, when I say, yeah, I built 2 7-figure businesses in under 18 months. Well, I've been reading personal development books since I was 16 years old, since before it was cool to read personal development books, right? Like people are like, why aren't you reading like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter? And I don't know. I just was attracted to it. So like, it's been a long time coming for me to be able to build this. But, for the marketing headlines, it looks better for me to say I built 2 7-figure businesses under 18 months. But it's been like, if you really look back at the overnight successes and you hear some of the greatest guys, they say the same thing. So the first thing that I think the society pushes on people is that like, if you start your business today and if you're not a millionaire tomorrow, then you're a failure. And I have screenshots on my website. I show that from January, when I started my business in 2018 to October, I did $3,000 total sales, January to October, $3,000 total sales. You guys can see it on my website. And that was not from me not working hard, because at the same time, I also show photos. I very much believe in fitness and like personal health. And I was 40 pounds heavier than I am right now. I was working 16 to 18 hour days, eating junk food. I hated it. I hated all of it. And I made $3,000. And you got to keep in mind, I turned down like this dream life of being this lawyer in one of the top schools. And now my parents didn't even tell people what I was doing, because I think they were embarrassed to tell people that I was like working at this restaurant, right? Oh yeah, he's just going to law school. That's what they're telling me. Yeah, he's going to law school still. And so I realized that in October, we talked about mentorship. I got my first one-on-one mentor. At least in October, we did $18,000. November, we did 32 grand. And December, we did close to $50,000. I mean, it was like, and if you looked at it in the October to December, you're like, wow, you did 50 grand. But it was also the whole year of me, like, things started hitting one after the other.
Oh yeah.
It's insane. And that's the first thing I see in society is like, you have to have everything instant. And unfortunately, I run an advertising agency. I do play into that as well. I'm going to admit to you guys, like it's how you sell stuff, right? If someone wanted to sign up for my coaching program, Scaling with Systems, and I was to say, hey, look, congratulations. Thanks for joining. Now, before you join, I'm going to let you know, it's probably going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your whole life. You're probably going to lose money before you make it. And it's probably going to be about 6 to 8 months before you see any real profits or get any real satisfaction. Your family and friends are going to leave you, and you might gain some weight. You're probably not going to give me any money at that point, right? Like you're not going to work with me at that point. But that's the truth. And so that's the first side. And then the other side I see is just people don't realize that when people tell you stuff, that they're most of the time putting their own insecurities on you. And so my dad and my mom were both very successful business owners, incredibly successful business owners. But with the invention of the internet, they actually lost everything. Their business went under because of Amazon, really. And so my dad lived this incredible lifestyle. I was very, very lucky when I was young to have an incredible lifestyle, but then we lost it all. And I know that he wanted me to be a lawyer because he wanted me to have job security, and I didn't have to go through the kind of same turbulent lifestyle that he went through as well. And so people put their own insecurities on you, or they want what they think is the best thing for you. But like I said earlier, I knew he didn't know what the best thing for me was. And I knew that if I said yes to this law school thing, it wasn't just $200,000 in debt. It was 3 years, arguably the best years of your life to make decisions, like, 22 to 25, 27. I was going to give away to an institution that really didn't give a shit about me, in my opinion. And so I think the other side of it is that people don't realize that most of the time it's people's insecurities being laid on you. And I tell this joke, not really joke, but story every time I'm on an interview to give you guys an example. Even to this day, right? So I was on Fox News in February of 2019 for my advertising agency for some of the numbers we were doing with real estate agents. And after I got off Fox News, I mean, it was like a surreal experience, right? I started a year before, then I'm on Fox News. I'm like, this is insane. And I'm getting calls, friends, everybody I know, people in my old waiting job. And I get a call from my aunt, and she lives in New Jersey, my dad's sister, and she's Indian, and in the Indian culture, you're a doctor or a lawyer, right? Or like, that's the two things. And she's like, congratulations on Fox News. I'm like, thank you so much. She's like, yeah, no, I'm proud of you. And then she's like, so when are you going back to law school though? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like if Fox News isn't gonna do it. And I was like, I don't know. And I love her more than anything. I'm so close to my aunt, I really am. But she asked me that, and I was like, it's so funny because like that's just what they know, and that's what they want for you. And so you just have to realize that at the end of that book, what the biggest thing that I got out of it was that nobody is gonna live with the consequences of my decision but myself. My aunt's not gonna live with it. My dad's not gonna live with the consequences of the decision. My sister, my mom, nobody's gonna live with these consequences but myself. So I might as well choose something that I have a chance of actually really loving and doing. And then the final thing was just that I love social media in the sense of I could see other people making money online. I could see videos, and this was 2 years ago. It wasn't even as prominent as it is now, but I could see videos of people that, just between you and me and everyone listening to this, that I was like, they're not that smart. If they can make money, I know I can as well. And so that's what the beautiful thing about social media and like interviews like this is that I could just be like, look, it's possible. Steve Jobs says, life becomes great when you realize that everything around you is made by somebody not that much smarter than you. And so like, that's what opened my eyes. I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so you just have to kind of combine those three things there, realizing it's going to take some time, realizing it's possible because somebody else can do it, and realizing that most people will not understand it because most people are looking at your world through their perceptions.
Right. So you give me so much to ask you. We need like an hour instead of half an hour. Okay, a couple things. I've been recruiting for 25 years and I see exactly what you mentioned. Someone doesn't get a promotion, so they go get their MBA. And now they're $50K in debt and they still don't have that promotion. So what is it about you, people like you paid what? You said $997 for a program? People do that all the time. But I'd say probably only 10% actually do something with that stupid, that program, right? What is it about you? Like, what makes you different?
It's not necessarily me, and it's funny because I'd say it's less than 10%. And I was just on a call with one of my one-on-one students a minute ago, and he was talking about how much value should he be putting out on YouTube and his Facebook groups right now. Like, he's like, I don't want to give away the farm. And I'm like, look, man, the truth is, I've given away my secret sauces already. I mean, I've given away on interviews, I've given away on YouTube videos, I've given away on free Facebook groups. But I've noticed 99.9% of the time, people just don't value it and they don't take action. Honestly, the solution, and this is something that I really pride myself in, and like when I go speak on stages, this is how people introduce me, but it's like I take so much immense imperfect action that it's so hard for anybody to keep up with me. And that's why I've been able to get the results that I've been able to get in arguably the short time period that I've had, is because it's just like when I hear a good idea, I will implement it immediately, or I will write it down and I'll give it to a team member, or I'll pay somebody to implement that thing for me immediately. And most people, they go through a course and they take all right, I got to finish the course first, and then I got to write all my notes down. Then I got to color coordinate my notes. Then I got to transfer my notes to my Google Docs. Then I got to ask questions. And for me, it was like, as soon as I heard the first thing about how to before I even knew how to deliver social media as a service to people, As soon as I learned how to sell it, I sold it. And then I figured out how to do it afterwards. There's a great saying in my program scaling systems. We said, sell before you create. So as long as you roughly know that you can do something, and I'll give everyone listening this a little secret. The beautiful thing about the world we live in is, number one, you can Google it and find out how to do it. Or number two, you can just pay somebody else a little less. If you charge someone $2,000 to do something, you can pay someone $1,000 and you can just keep that difference, right? And that's the beautiful thing about the world we live in now, is we're so connected like that. So I was like, I'm going to sell this first. And so I sold it. And before I had even literally learned how to do it, I made my first $2,000. And then I was like, all right, now I need to figure out how to deliver this on the back end. So the bottom line, and everyone hears it from the same people over and over again, and it's just action. I literally just like, I think it comes to this, right? You learn something, you take action, there's feedback from the marketplace, and then you do what's called iteration. Then you change whatever based on the feedback. And luckily for me, because I've been taking immense action from the beginning, it was like I took action on the course. I made money from the course. I spent more time learning the course, how to do better. I made more money doing that. So I took more action. I bought another course. And it was just like this feedback loop that was just like continuously making me do more and more action. I just learned that when I did action, I made more money. I had more impact. I lived the life of my dreams. But when I didn't do action, none of those things happened, right? So it just comes down to just without knowing all the facts, without knowing what's going to happen, with being totally prepared for rejection, with being totally prepared for being embarrassed, it's just doing the one small thing. And usually like every day, it's just one little small thing. And then just over time, that just compounds and you just get better and better and better at everything. So yeah, we talk about it inside of our, for example, inside Scaling with Systems, my coaching program. The biggest reason why we have one of the best success rates of anybody in the industry is because we give a virtual assistant with every single client that we take on board. So we give a fully trained virtual assistant in the Philippines for about $5 an hour for every single client that we take on board, and they work for that client. And the reason, Lisa, we have such success, and you can look at our testimonials, everyone says the same thing, is because the action that people are supposed to be taking, sending emails, calling friends, cold calling, Facebook messaging, Instagram messaging, all that stuff, most people will do it for 1 to 2 days. They get a rejection, they stop, they hate it, they think it's not for them. Well, these virtual assistants are doing it for you every single day, no matter what. So all of a sudden, it's like the action that's being needed to taken is actually being taken. And now you're able to work on the other stuff inside of your company. So like, that is honestly, when we came up with this concept for this company, it was like, I was like, this is going to be insane, because like, I know you don't need more information, Lisa, and the people listening to this thing, they don't need more information either, right? If information was all we needed, then everyone would have a mansion on the water with a Rolls Royce, and there would be no, poverty in this world. But the difference is the people that take action on the things. And if you can't take action personally, you got to find somebody else to take action on your behalf. And that's when you'll start seeing that momentum shift.
Oh, absolutely. So, we only have time for one more question. So what do I want to ask? Okay, I'm going to ask you this. Okay, so for those of you that are watching this at a later time, we are in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. And I want to ask you, Ravi, so picture yourself 20 years from now. You're not a grandpa by then. Maybe you're a dad. And your kid comes up to you and he's like, Daddy, I just learned about the coronavirus. Were you alive then? What did you do? I heard people went crazy. What would you say?
What an awesome question. I've been on a few interviews since this.
Oh, and I need to give credit to this question because
Okay,
it's
go ahead.
mine. It's Jason Capital.
Okay, very cool. Shout out to Jason. Yeah, I know Jason as well. That's
He's
hilarious.
amazing. I'm doing his Social Boss program right now, and it's really cool. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. And I hope I'm a dad by then. And I say the same thing, and I'll say to my students right now. I am excited for COVID-19 to be over. And the reason I'm excited for COVID-19 to be over is because you're going to see Warren Buffett has one of the best sayings in the world. He says, only when the tide goes out do you see who's been swimming naked. So when COVID-19 is over, I can proudly say that every single day I worked 12 to 14 hours a day. I still ran. We bought gym equipment for our house. I still meditated. I read every single day. I haven't watched a minute of television. It's not because I'm this freak or fanatic. is because like right now I know that majority of people are doing all those things, watching TV, laying around, saying that nobody's making money, which is not true. I promise you, I have people in my program making money. And so I'm like, I have such a competitive advantage right now that like everyone's laying around at home. So everyone in my house right now, I live with 3 other entrepreneurs. We're just laying it on right now, nonstop. Our advertising spend has increased. Our number of podcast interviews I do have increased right now because more than ever, people are on social media and people are online, and I'm capturing attention at the lowest rates I've ever captured it at. So what I would tell my kid was like, well, yes, I was alive during that time, and that's why we live the lifestyle we live today, is because your dad, instead of laying around, took action on the things that needed to happen inside of his company. I told myself I would not lay off. I have over 20 employees. I was like, I'm not going to lay off one employee. And we're going to have probably one of the best months we've had yet in this month of April since I've started my business. And because people are shutting down, and my brother owns a restaurant. He owns 2 restaurants and he's suffering right now. So I'm not insensitive to that. I'm talking about other people in my industry. And I'll just happily essentially tell my kid, my son, my daughter, whatever it is, that like during the craziest time, one of the craziest time in my lifetime, your father kept a cool head and executed on the small things every single day, whether he was locked inside during a pandemic or whether he had the whole world at his fingertips. But he did the small stuff every single day that brought him to where we are right now, essentially.
I love that. So, okay, I am going to ask one more question because this is what I always want to know. So I think you're going to be an amazing dad. If you could not leave your children any assets, but you could leave them abilities or wisdom, what would you leave them?
Wow, these are some deep questions we're really getting into this call here. I'm like, I love them though. This is awesome. I actually had this exact same conversation with somebody 2 days ago. And it was like, what would you want to pass on essentially if you had to choose one thing to pass on to your kids? And the word I essentially came up with, which we have a few things, but like, it's just resilience. I think resilience is probably the thing. If I had to pass on to my kids, whether that's a learned skill, it's genetic, I don't know. But, you know, I've faced plenty of obstacles in my past, right? With family, business, whatever it is. And like, I think that the best people in this world are not the best because they were born into it, or they look great, or they are the preppiest and they cheer and they make the most noise. One of my favorite things to do is read autobiographies of the most successful people in the world. Is what I do. Almost all of them come from backgrounds that are just like horrendous. I mean, unbelievable. That and our world is like, you couldn't even believe it, right? And what that has, one of them says the exact same thing, and is essentially resilience. Like, if you're able to live on the streets and be homeless, Steve Harvey literally lived on the streets and lived in his car, right? Like, if you're literally able to live on the streets and be homeless, well, when you go out there and start your own business and the first 100 people you call tell you to, F off, you're all right. I've done worse than this, right? It's not a big deal. Or when your partner steals all of your money and runs away from you, or your wife cheats on you, or your business goes under and you lose your dream house, you're able to be like, all right, whatever. I'm on what I can do the next thing. I'm picking myself up. I'm not skipping any time, because I have seen in my personal life, professional and personal life, I have seen people that they let a blow, and arguably a pretty strong blow, they let a blow knock them out and knock them down. And then they almost live this hollow existence. And I don't mean to be like morbid on this call here, but it's like where they're just like, it's almost like when you go back for Thanksgiving and you hear like your high school quarterback and all he's talking about is how he used to be the best quarterback in high school and like everyone's 40 years old, right? It's like the two things they do is they complain about their current situation and they talk about the good old days back then. And I just never wanted to be that person. And the way you're not able to ever be that person is that you just build resilience in your life, so that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what, you get hit by a bus, then when you're getting up from the bus, someone steps on your neck, you're still getting up after that. And you're just taking whatever lessons you learned to that to kind of propel you even further, faster.
Well, and you know what? You said something. You and I both know Ed Milet. Ed is one of my mentors. And have you seen that video he does about people actually like us that come from, middle class upbringing? We actually have the hardest time making it big because we're so used to being comfortable, right? So I think what you have done, Ravi, is really special. I'm excited to see what our audience. I hope it changes even one life. I pray that it does. So we are out of time, folks. I am going to ask you though, Ravi, you had a complimentary gift that you wanted to offer our audience. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I would love to. Before I even get into that, Lisa, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I think you reached out over email, and I rarely respond just because of all the things that we have going on right now. But I could not be happier that I messaged you back. I'm so thrilled that you invited me on here, that you even thought of having me on here. The other names that are on this thing, I mean, the fact that I'm even digitally next to these people blows my mind, and I'm super, super humble and grateful that you would have me on here. And for everyone listening to this as well, thank you guys for your time. You guys spent this past 30, 40, 50 minutes doing literally absolutely anything else. And I really do appreciate your guys' attention for this, and I hope it was valuable for you. So I created a few weeks ago, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, I kept on getting questions like, how do I start my first online business? How do I start building a business online? How do I scale a business once I get started? How to make sure it's profitable so I don't need any capital to start? So I created a very, it's a simple course. It's only about 12 modules long, but it's called 3 Steps to Scale. And it's really the steps that I took in order to scale 2 companies to 7 figures in under 18 months. And it covers the stuff that I talked about here, the lead generation tactics, selling before you create, hiring someone to do lead generation for you, eliminating the stuff out of your life that doesn't make sense. And so all you have to do, I'm sure that Lisa will drop it down below, but you can just go to our website, scalingwithsystems.com, or type it in Google and you'll see it right there on the homepage. As soon as you get there, you'll get access to it. Also, if you want to message me on Instagram or Facebook, just Ravi Abuvala, RaviAbuvala. Please send me a message. Let me know that you came from here. Any questions that you have, I'd be more than happy to answer it. And Lisa, thank you again so much for having me on here. This was a blast.
Absolutely. Well, to my audience, I'm so glad that you joined us. I hope this has brought value to you. Be sure that you tune in next time to our Corporate to Entrepreneur series. We are hearing from people that have just found such joy and passion in their lives when they've made that brave leap. So bless you all in your life journey, and we will see you soon.